Hello, and welcome to a very quick review of this Pilot Custom Urushi. And I have no idea if that is how you say it, but that is what I'm going to go with. So this arrived yesterday from Pensachi in Japan. And I'm going to kind of very quickly go through some of the bits that I like, that I don't like. You've probably heard all of this before if you have watched any pen reviews. And at the very end, I'll do a very quick writing sample and some size comparisons. So this is not a small pen. Just to give you an idea, here is a Lamy 2000. Just so you know the kind of size of the pen that we're going to be talking about, it is a big pen. It is a Urushi lacquer on the red parts, or Vermillion, if we're going to be correct about this. And it is black plastic, or acrylic, whatever you want to call it, on the black parts. Also on the section that is just standard plastic. Now, yeah, people will have their own opinions on this. I'll kind of probably go over it a little bit later. It doesn't bother me too much, but yeah, it's worth knowing. This is, I suppose, Pilot's flagship pen. It comes with their number 30 nib, and what I'll do is I'll get hopefully, there we go, get in a bit close. So the nib, and I'll kind of cover the nib separately, I suppose. It's just so good. I mean, if you don't want to watch the rest of the video, the only thing I would say is this pen, this nib, is worth the money, hands down. But we will kind of go through it a bit. So yeah, so you've got the plastic feed there, obviously 18 karat gold nib. This one is broad, the red Vermillion with Urushi lacquer. The nib is a number 30, which means absolutely nothing, but it is the same as, pretty much the same as a Montblanc 149, as a Pelikan M1000, or a European number 8 nib. The converter, because yes, this very expensive pen has a plastic converter, is the Pilot Con 70. Doesn't really bother me, if I'm being completely honest. I like to change inks quite a lot. A syringe is how I fill these up and wash them out as well, because there are people who find these difficult to wash out, but a syringe does it in very, very quick time. And the price. Let's talk about the price. So if you are unfortunate enough to live outside of Japan, you're going to be paying quite the premium. So it's about £1,000 in the UK. I think I've seen them for about $1,100, $1,200. I think the retail price might be $1,400, which is not a cheap pen by any stretch of the imagination. I got this from Pensachi. I think the price at the time was £600 pretty much. Now that is before tax. After I paid the wonderful taxes, I ended up paying about £720, £730. So in the UK, that kind of puts it ballpark with the Montblanc 149, twice as much as the Pelikan M1000. But similar price if you were to buy things like the Sailor King of Pen and other big flagship pens. It kind of puts it in that ballpark, but hands down, get it from Japan. You'll save yourself an awful lot of money. So let's go into the bad parts. No one covers the bad parts first, so I'm going to kind of cover that. The packaging. Let's talk about the packaging. Now, this is a difficult one because that's how it arrives, in this kind of white box. It's a sleeve. You've got your bits at the end. Let's remove that, which, there you go. You've got a black box. All relatively mundane so far. If we remove the top of that, you've got this kind of, I'm not even sure I can call it faux leather, to be honest. It's a soft plastic, shall we say. It is a soft plastic, very lightweight. It's probably cardboard, to be perfectly honest. And in there, you would have had the pen. And what we have in here are these Pensacci stickers, which look like they've been printed on my home printer. So I really not particularly bothered with those. You've got your little plastic thing that the pen came in. You've got this jewellery type bed underneath that. This is quite nice. Shows you that they tested the pen. And it says, in short, my pen is so smooth and wet. So thank you, Pensacci. And then underneath there, you have this black Pilot cartridge, which will forever remain in the box, never to be seen or used again. Put that under there. So yeah, I mean, look, the packaging, if I was to be picky, is rubbish. I mean, the pen costs it does cost £1,000 in the UK, and if you know, it's rubbish packaging. But I don't really care about packaging personally. I do keep my boxes because I'm a hoarder. My wife hates me, and it's just something we have to put up with. But it's good for selling if you ever do sell anything in future. I'm not particularly bothered about packaging. I would rather the pen be cheaper and the packaging inadequate, as long as it protects the pen. Not particularly bothered. Look, I've had cheaper pens that come in much better packaging. I don't think it adds much to the cost, and at the point you're paying, I don't think it really. It doesn't really matter too much. It's a very small thing. Next thing, the feed. People are going to moan. It's a plastic feed on an ebonite pen. Oh, I should have said. Yes, it is an ebonite pen underneath all of this beautiful Urushi. The feed is plastic. Shock horror, does it make a difference? Absolutely not. Would it have been nice to include an ebonite feed on an ebonite pen? Yeah, probably. Would it have cost much more? I seriously doubt it. But you have a plastic one, and it does its job very well. I've had zero issues whatsoever. But, I'm sure there'll be people who will not like a plastic feed on a £1,000 ebonite pen. And the plastic, speaking of plastic, the black plastic finial, all the little bits here. I mean, look, I don't know how much this would have cost to make it in ebonite and Urushi. Would it have really added much to the cost of the pen? Would it be nice to say this is a completely ebonite and Urushi pen? Yeah. Can I honestly tell the difference? Not really. I mean, yes, you can, I suppose, if you were, the Urushi and the ebonite make it a warmer, almost kind of slightly more matte finish than the shiny plastic. And I think in the person, the pictures never do it justice. If you see a picture of a darker Vermillion pen, that's probably more like the kind of pen you're actually going to get. I don't think the pictures really do it justice. It's more matte. You kind of look through the actual pen rather than with it being acrylic. It's much shinier and more reflective. Look, they probably could have made it all Urushi and all ebonite, but I'm not on the Pilot product team. And then I suppose lastly, speaking of that, the actual cost of the Urushi, is it worth? I mean, look, worth is always difficult. I've always said that once you get past the Lamy 2000 at £100, I'm not sure the writing experience increases exponentially with the cost. Certainly, I think if you want the best cost to writing experience, the Lamy 2000 is there. The Pelican M1000 that you normally get for about £400, that's probably the limit. This is almost twice as much. It's not twice the writing experience. It's not twice the pen. It's better, in my opinion. And yeah, I would buy it again. I think, to have it, it's a once in a lifetime thing. I would much rather have one of these than 20 TWSBI Ecos, whatever you want to call them, or whatever else. So yes, I do like the pen. I think it is worth it. At 720, I probably wouldn't have dropped £1,000 if I'm being honest. And I would have bought two of them if they were 350, but all plastic. I'm not sure you wouldn't have necessarily been able to tell too much that it wasn't all ebonite and Urushi. But there we go. Maybe they could speak to Mont Blanc and get some precious resin in the Vermillion colour. So let's look at some positives, because that was a rather negative spin on a £1,000 pen. Okay, up until now, the Pelikan M1000 was my best pen. It was the best writer. It was smooth. It was wet. It was beautiful. The only issue was the occasional hard start, because it was so smooth, especially on smoother paper. But we're talking normally only the first time I've ever used it after not using it for a while. This is smoother. Pilot have done an amazing job. This hasn't been tuned or anything. They have done an amazing job on the actual nib itself. This is a broad which is almost identical to my M1000 medium, which, to be honest, I always thought the medium was about a broad or a double broad anyway. So yeah, this is not a thin pen, a thin line width. If you're buying the broad thinking, oh, it's Japanese, I'm going to get a really thin pen here, a thin width. It's not. It's broad. And I'll show you a writing sample in a bit. That was terrible camera work. I do apologise. So it is a broad nib. The size, I like it. I mean, I've never thought I've had massive hands, to be honest. I prefer a thicker grip section. Maybe it's because I'm old before my time. But I find that incredibly comfortable to write with. It's not particularly, I just don't find it uncomfortable at all. I probably wrote with it for 4 or 5 hours yesterday. No issues whatsoever. And yeah, I prefer, this is almost probably my perfect size, to be honest. It's really nice size. So yeah, this is all very subjective. People will have their own opinions. I like that size. And then, yeah, I suppose out of the box, buying something this expensive, I bought 2 Visconti Homo sapiens recently, had to send them both back. I had to buy 3 Pelikans in the end before I got the nib out of the box that was decent. And yes, you can send it to a Nibmeister. Yes, you probably should, to be honest, especially on the more expensive pens. I still search for that out of the box perfection. And this, hands down, was perfect. I could probably stretch to try and find some issues, but no, it's pretty perfect. The actual nib itself, so if you've ever used a Pelikan M1000, it's a very unique nib, very springy, very spongy. It's not flexy, if you want to throw the word flexy around, but it's just a very springy nib when you're writing. This is also very soft, very springy. It's very similar to the Pelikan. The only thing I would say is this snaps back a little bit quicker, so it's just a bit more responsive. I feel like I could write for longer with this and have less issues. It will be a bit more consistent. It's also smoother. Didn't think that was possible, but it is smoother. I mean, you could write with 0 pressure. Now, yes, you should write with 0 pressure with a fountain pen, but this literally will just absolutely glide. I mean, the Pelikan was good, but and the Pelikan, in my opinion, is far better than the likes of the Mont Blanc 149, the Homo sapiens, certainly the new 18 karat Bock nibs that they've got, which all kind of drag a little bit and just aren't glassy smooth, if that's the term you want to use. This makes the Pelikan feel a little bit muted. Because it's just, the Pelikan is probably a little bit softer. I don't want to use the word mushy because I really like it. But compared to this, I've not written with anything like it. And if you do write with a really light hand, it is, yeah, it's amazing. You will not regret it. And then lastly, aesthetics. I love it. It's timeless. If I hadn't got, and we'll do a size comparison in a minute, but if I hadn't got the black Pelican M1000, which looks like a toy next to the Pilot, if I didn't have the black one, I possibly would have gone for the black Pilot. I'm very happy that I have the black Pelican because I love the Vermillion in person. It looks much better than it does in the photos. So yeah, like, I think the look of it will, it will maintain its look for a long, long time. And then size comparison very quickly. So you've seen it against the Lamy 2000. You've got it there against the Pelican M1000, which looks so small. And there it is against the Pelican M805. So, everyone points to the M805 or M800 series as a big pen. And obviously the M1000 is an oversized pen. This is a chonky boy. And what we'll do is... So here they are with the caps off. And you can see, it is longer than the M1000. Although it's not much different. The cap size, the cap makes a very big difference in terms of the look of it. It looks much bigger with the cap on. Nibs wise, if we zoom in, what have we got there? There we go. You can kind of see the difference in nib size is not actually that much between the M1000. Obviously, it's much bigger than the Lamy. Should we just move the Lamy because it's a little bit pointless here. It's a little bit longer. I much prefer the look of the Pilot nib. I just like that aesthetic. But yeah, there we go. So that is the various differences in size. I would recommend, obviously, if you can try one, great, but unlikely. So what we'll do now is we'll move on to a little writing sample, and I'll compare it with the M1000 as well, just so you can see the difference. And we will take it from there. So on to the writing sample. This is a Rhodia A4 Plus pad, and it's the 90 GSM. I think it's Clairefontaine paper, some kind of super vellum or something, probably butchering that. Superfine vellum maybe. And it's further away than normal. I know a lot of people have like quite a zoomed in view of their writing sample. I might do one afterwards, but I kind of like to see it as if I'm actually looking at it when I look at the reviews, because sometimes you'll see a broad nib that will look like a paintbrush when it's really, really close. But then when you actually look at it a bit further away, it's not too bad. So this is the Pilot Custom Urushi, and this is a broad. And let's do a sentence that I'm sure many people will be incredibly familiar with. There you go. Ink, by the way, is Iroshizuku Yamabudo. Don't know if that's exactly how you say it, but that's what I'm going with. And it's all really smooth. You might hear, so if you press just a little bit, you'll kind of hear this sound. It's still super smooth. I don't know even if the microphone is picking it up. I suppose it's a bit more, you can hear a bit of feedback. That being said, if you do have a nice light hand, it writes just as well, even smoother, just as wet. It is. There you go. You even got that bit as well. So yeah, it's a very nice pen. I hate the whole flexi part. You know, people do the old, oh, there we go. I mean, you can, and I'll probably zoom in on that in a bit. It's not a flex pen. It's, you know, best part of £1,000. Don't flex it. You're gonna ruin it. There's no real need to push it like that, to be honest. Certainly, I've never had a need when writing to start pushing it to get line variation. You do have a tiny bit of line variation. It's not that noticeable, to be honest. But yeah, the downstrokes are ever so slightly different. And what I'll do, so now you've seen that, I'll do a zoomed in one because people love a zoomed in one. So, ta-da! Here we go, zoomed in. So this is the. It's a very weird writing angle for me. So that is a broad, and just as an example, I will show you the M1000. This is a medium. You hopefully can pick up a bit more sound. So, the astute observers will notice that they're different colours. How can you possibly do a comparison with different colour ink? Yeah, sorry, but I'm not going to change the Pelican. For now, it is Iroshizuku, and I'm going to butcher another word today. Murasaki Shikibu. Which is almost certainly not how you say that. It's the purple Iroshizuku ink in a medium Pelican. So you've got medium Pelican, broad Pilot, and it's virtually identical. I would say, if anything, like looking at some of the letters, I would say the Pelican is a little bit broader. It's certainly barely noticeable. I've compared pages and pages next to each other. It's not massively noticeable. In terms of kind of smoothness, I thought the Pelican was unmatched for smoothness, but the Pilot did beat it out. They both. I mean, look, you know, if people do like to see the whole. You know, yes, you can squeeze some line variation out of that in the same way that you can squeeze some line variation out of that. You can probably squeeze a little bit more out of the Pelican. And yeah, in terms of bounciness, people want. No, maybe not. So you can see it does bounce. If I zoom in even a bit more. There you go. You can kind of see it is a bit bouncy. It's really, I mean, I honestly cannot say enough about this nib, about this pen. You know, look, I'm not sure you can get an awful lot from a writing sample like that. To be honest, it's really something that you're going to have to look at in person, feel in person, and see it. So, yeah, takeaways, I would say, if you have the opportunity to buy one, because although I don't think they're exclusively limited editions, they seem to be very hard to get hold of, almost sold out pretty much everywhere. I think you can pre-order them But if you can get hold of one, if you can try one out, brilliant, do it. If you can just simply write with one, I think it'll be unlike anything you've written with. You know, I mean, I've had Mont Blanc 149s, you know, Visconti Homo sapiens, that aren't a patch on the writing experience of this. And yes, you do pay a price tag for it. I would, if anything, I may end up getting this kind of ground down eventually to something a little bit thinner, maybe a little bit more stub-like to give a bit more line variation. But all in all, there it is. I'll do a written review and some photos for people that don't like videos, although that's probably not going to apply to anyone watching because you've already got this far. And yeah, thank you for watching. I recommend checking out some other reviews that you've seen in this pen that kind of go into a bit more detail over some of the little bits and pieces. I know Fig Boot on Pens has got one. There's one from Penultimate Dave. That was a good one. He's got the same pen. Oh, had the same pen. So yeah, look, any questions you've got, any comments, please feel free to put them in the comments below and I will do my best to get to them. So thank you for watching. See you again.